Good morning, greetings, friends, and welcome to The Bright Side, your nutritional program dedicated to the understanding of the vast world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. I'm your host, Pharmacist Ben, nutritional pharmacist from Boulder, Colorado. I use nutritional supplements where other healthcare practitioners use toxic pharmaceutical drugs and sometimes deadly medical procedures. If you suspect that there are natural nutritional roads to your health and vitality and well-being, and to addressing your health challenges, whatever they may be, but you don't know where to begin, you have come to the right place. As you listen to The Bright Side every day, you are more and more in control of your body, you are more and more knowledgeable, and you know you can overcome any health challenge. That is why we are here every day on The Bright Side, helping clear up the sometimes confusing world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. Over the last 32 years of practicing pharmacy, I've seen drug-free recoveries from diabetes, hypertension, obesity, skin diseases like acne, psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, digestive ailments, autoimmune issues of all kinds, recoveries that by the standards of modern medicine can only be called a miracle, but what is in the world of the body, what is in the world of biology, standard operating procedure. Because the human biological system is a healing system. It's a regenerating system. It is designed divinely to heal and renew itself on a moment-to-moment basis. And while some folks may call that a miracle, it really is just the way the body works. If you have questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, give us a call at 844-236-6010. We can help you, 844-236-6010. If you have questions about the longevity products, our True Skin Health products, comments or success stories you'd like to share, 844-236-6010 is our number on The Bright Side. If you want to purchase longevity products, head to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can purchase longevity products off the website. You can also sign up to join the Brightside Ben team for a one-time $30 fee. You can be in business for yourself. If you're an entrepreneur, it's an ideal business opportunity. Call 866-735-2470 if you'd like to speak to a real-life human being about the business opportunity, about the joining the Brightside Ben team, or you can click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can check out our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com. We've got a skin health blog up as well as all our Truth Skin Health products. We also have bundles. You can save 20%. Save 20% when you buy a hyperpigmentation bundle, an anti-aging bundle, a rosacea bundle, our acne bundle, or our sensitive skin, dry skin bundle. You'll get 5 or 6 products at 20% off. All the products are up at truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. All right, welcome back to The Bright Side. We have been talking about a couple very interesting elements. Nutritionally, one of them, anyway, is interesting nutritionally. One is interesting in the sense that it's a well-known toxic material. But they're also, these two elements are also interesting because they're related to each other via something called alchemy. Last program, we talked about this relationship between sulfur and mercury. We said sulfur has a protective effect on the toxic properties of mercury. Using MSM sulfur, for example, can help detoxify mercury. There's a relationship, a magnetic connection between mercury and sulfur that accounts for a lot of mercury's toxicity, by the way. Mercury reacts with sulfur in the body, reacts particularly with sulfur proteins, and using sulfur, whether you're using sulfur in the form of a supplement like MSM or whether you're ingesting sulfur in onions or garlic or animal products, using sulfur can have a protective effect on mercury because the same reaction that mercury has with sulfur in the body, it will have with sulfur in a supplement or sulfur in a food. And the sulfur in your supplement, your MSM supplement, for example, or the sulfur in your food, or your plant-derived sulfur, if you're using sulfur colloidal minerals, plant-derived minerals, can magnetically chelate the mercury and pull the mercury out of the body. So that same magnetic attraction that mercury has with sulfur proteins that accounts for mercury's toxicity, at least partially, can be leveraged or taken advantage of as a detox mechanism to pull mercury out of the body. So making sure you're getting enough sulfur is super duper important. And guess what? A lot of people don't get the sulfur that they need because of soil depletion. This whole thing about mercury is very, very fascinating. The relationship between mercury and sulfur is also very fascinating. Alchemists, the ancient alchemists, were especially fascinated by the relationship between mercury and sulfur. Sulfur was considered to be the essence of matter. The fact that sulfur turned into smoke really readily was regarded by ancient alchemists as a sign that sulfur was the essence of a matter. The smoke was always considered to be the essence of something, and sulfur was very burnable. It turned into smoke very readily. So ancient alchemists related sulfur to the essence of matter. Mercury, on the other hand, was considered to be a magical substance that transcended matter. Mercury is both a solid and a liquid. Mercury is really fascinating stuff. The fact that it's a solid and a liquid was regarded as sacred and holy, that it had two kinds of basic qualities. It was a solid and it was a matter. And the fact that sulfur and mercury stuck to each other, they adhered to each other, was also regarded as a kind of spiritual or magical phenomena. The art of alchemy was always about purification. It was part of what was called natural philosophy. And you've got to kind of put yourself back in the 1500s and the 1400s, when science was somewhat primitive. Natural philosophy was basically what science was. Science was considered to be a philosophy of how the world worked, a philosophy of nature. And alchemy was obsessed with purification. In fact, the word alchemy means God's heat. Alchemy is an Arabic word, actually, and Al, like Allah, is God, and chem is, I think it's Latin or Egyptian for heat. Alchemy means God's heat, and the early alchemists regarded fire as an ultimate purifying force. They were obsessed with purification, and so they focused on heat and fire. Superficially, they focused their work on purifying metals, turning lead into gold. From a superficial standpoint, from a physical standpoint, they wanted to purify the human body and make it perfect and then make it immortal. From a spiritual perspective, it was about purifying the lower nature of man and giving him a higher nature, taking him to his higher nature, but that's a whole other story. From a physical perspective, the early alchemists wanted to purify metals and purify the body, and to the alchemists, mercury, which is one of the 7 alchemical metals, gold, silver, copper, lead, iron, and tin, and mercury are the 7 alchemical metals. To the alchemists, mercury, because of its liquid solid properties, if you ever looked at mercury in a jar, it's like a metal that you can slosh around. It's a liquid metal, which is super fascinating. It's fascinating now. You can imagine how fascinated the ancient scientists, ancient alchemists were with it. And they attributed this liquid-solid combination as a sign that mercury transcended liquid and solid. It transcended life and death. Liquid and solid represented life and death. And they saw mercury as being a sacred substance that transcended the physical world of duality, the physical world of opposites. And on top of that, when mercury was mixed with a little nitric acid, which the alchemists knew about, this thick red smoke was produced. So you got this incredible substance that's a metal, it's silver, it's liquid and solid, a liquid solid silver metal that's sloshed around in a jar, if you put it in a jar, and on top of that, if you put a couple drops of nitric acid in there, this thick red smoke would be produced. So you can imagine what the ancient alchemists were thinking. This stuff is amazing. And sulfur was also important to the alchemists. Sulfur was representative of the essence of life. The sulfur was known for a pungent smell and also the tendency to turn into smoke, to burn and then in turn into smoke. So the ancients thought, or alchemists, they weren't ancient, they were in the maybe 1500s or so, 16th century, somewhere in there, 15th, 16th century. They thought sulfur represented the animating principle, the essence, the cause of individual life, the soul of life. They considered sulfur to be a representative of the individual signature that makes each life form what it is. That's what the soul is. The soul is like an individual signature that makes individual people who they are, individual species of life what they are, individual plants what they are, individual insects what they are. That's considered to be the soul. And sulfur, because of this tendency to burn, was considered to be the soul of matter. It was actually called the first matter, prima materia. That was what the alchemists called it. They believed that it was that from which all physical things arose. All right, we'll continue when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Got lines open, 844-236-6010. It's our number. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll return right after this. Okay, we are back on the bright side. Got lots of lines open at 844-236-6010, 844-236-6010. I am Pharmacist Ben, and we're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7 at brightsideben.com. On the archive page, you can purchase longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can sign up to join the Brightside Ben team off the websites as well, or you can call 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470. Okay, we're talking about two very fascinating elements, mercury and sulfur. Throughout history, mercury and sulfur have been regarded alchemically as being holy or sacred substances. Paracelsus, the Swiss grandfather of alchemy, grandfather of science, original scientist, at least original scientific proponent of the medical model, the inventor of the drug model, said, "He who does not know sulfur knows nothing and can accomplish nothing, neither of medicine nor of philosophy, nor any of the secrets of nature." And what he meant was, he wasn't talking about sulfur, the element, he was talking about sulfur as what it represents, the essence of all material, the prima materia, the first matter. Paracelsus, as well as the other alchemists, also were familiar, recognized the link between mercury and sulfur. Sulfur was the soul, mercury was considered the spirit. Sulfur was the essence, mercury was the transcendent element. And they also knew that sulfur and mercury in nature would adhere to each other. And this is kind of a reflection of the relationship between spirit and soul. Everything we're talking about here is the original science. The original science, alchemy, the original scientific method of alchemy was really about spirit. It was about spiritual stuff. The whole idea of the world being a material, not a spiritual phenomena, didn't start until Sir Isaac Newton or didn't really get going from a scientific perspective until the 1700s. Before then, science and spirituality were linked. Interestingly, now with quantum, scientific principles and spiritual principles are linked again. That's a whole nother story. We got to move into the quantum world, people. We've known since the turn of the 20th century, since the early 1900s, that there's a world out there that is completely different from the world we see with our eyes. An electromagnetic world where everything is connected, where thoughts influence your reality. Your beliefs are fundamental to how the world shows up. This is all quantum stuff, and we're still working medically by taking out the gallbladder and filtering out the placebo effect. This is a really important story that doesn't get discussed enough, how we live in a quantum world, but we believe stupidly and naively and in this kind of silly infant sort of way that the world is what we see. How would it be if we started to recognize that our gallbladder issues were really a function of the quantum world, which is about our consciousness and our thoughts? How powerful will we be once we recognize that we control our physical reality with quantum phenomena like consciousness and belief and thought? And that's really the bright side. Nutrition is awesome, and food is awesome, and diet is awesome, but the real bright side is that we have power over our world through our consciousness and our minds. And this is kind of a turn of the spiral, a higher degree of the understandings that the ancient alchemists had, that there was a spiritual world that was foundational or primal to the material world. So anyway, Paracelsus, the grandfather of the pharmaco-medical model, used to, he came up with something he called the 3 primes. And he said that by understanding the 3 primes, we could discover the means of curing disease. The 3 primes, as Paracelsus referred to it, or he called it tria prima in Latin, were sulfur, which represented the burning or the combustion of the essence, if you will, of a material, salt, which represented stability, and liquid. Or he said liquid, sulfur, and salt were the 3 humors. Another way of looking at this was sulfur, mercury, and salt. Sulfur, mercury, and salt, or as fire, water, and earth. So sulfur, mercury, and salt. Mercury is the liquid element. Sulfur is the essence element, and salt is the stable element. Other distinctions are mercury is female, sulfur is male, and salt is the child. That's the trinity of alchemy. The entity was mercury, liquidy. The male entity was sulfur, the father, if you will, where everything came from. and salt was the union of the two. The union of mercury and sulfur, very interestingly, exists as what's known as the most toxic mineral on Earth, hydrogen sulfide, mercury sulfide, HGS. Mercury sulfide is called cinnabar. Cinnabar is known as the most toxic mineral on Earth. And cinnabar is this beautiful orange-red color, and it's been treasured as it can get up to dark purple, actually. And it has been treasured as a pigment, as an ornament for making jewelry since caveman days. Literally for thousands of years, this cinnabar stuff has just, you can imagine what ancient people saw. It's a beautiful red crystal, and it was treasured as an ornament and as a jewel until people discovered that it was pretty darn toxic because it released mercury. Mercury stands out for a lot of reasons. It's a liquid, it's a solid, it's got this beautiful silver color, it turns into a red smoke, but the most notable effect of mercury is how toxic it is. And human beings have known about the toxicity of mercury since ancient times, since the Egyptian days, since the ancient Greeks. In fact, the toxicity of mercury, the pure potency of mercury, is what accounts for its use as a medicine for many, many years. It's one of the original medicines. The Sumerians used mercury as medicine. The Egyptians used mercury as medicine. And the toxic effects were unfortunately leveraged for nefarious reasons, not just for healing reasons, but for evil reasons. The Romans used to use mercury mines as prisons. They would have the criminals and the slaves and the undesirables work in the... Romans were twisted, man. They would do some really, really sick things. And one of the things they would do is they would have slaves. They'd conquer a country, get the slaves, and get them to, instead of building a prison, they'd just stick them in a mercury mine, have them mine mercury, which was basically a death sentence, without the need for a formal execution, without having to spend the money or keep a prisoner. They just have them mine until they drop dead in the mercury mine. The Spanish did the same thing. The Spanish in the Middle Ages and in the late 1700s, the Spanish had their own brand of evil, the medieval Spanish, and they would send slaves and captured enemy soldiers to the cinnabar mines, where they would mine cinnabar, HGS, mercury sulfide. So mercury stands out because of its for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is its potency. It's silver, it's liquid. And ancient civilizations, all ancient civilizations had their own stories about, and their own little talismans and their own medicines about mercury or based on mercury. Hg, which is the alchemical symbol the chemical symbol for mercury, means liquid silver, hydrogerium. Argerium is silver, hydra water, liquid silver. Hydrogerium is also called quicksilver. You ever heard the word quicksilver? Quicksilver refers to mercury because it's quick, it moves, it sloshes around, and it looks silver. Quicksilver, hydrogerium, Hg. Mercury is super duper fascinating, has fascinated people throughout history. We'll talk about it. We'll continue talking about it on the bright side. We'll get to your calls in our next segment, 844-236-6010. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll be back right after this. On the bright side, got lots of lines open, 844-236-6010, and we will get your calls here momentarily. Please check out our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com, and keep checking back because we've got blog posts as well as new products coming up here, probably the next couple of weeks anyway, pretty soon. I'm thinking probably the next 2 weeks. So anyway, keep checking truthtreatments.com. We've got our bundles up, 20% off when you purchase a bundle, and we've got all our original Truth treatments up as well. Truth Transdermal C Serum, Truth Transdermal C Balm, Truth Omega-6 Healing Cream, Truth Retinol 5% Gel, pharmaceutical potency without a prescription. These were all developed in my compounding pharmacy. They're all non-prescription products. We have supplements as well as topical products. Check them out at truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. All right, we'll continue talking about mysterious mercury and what you can do about mercury toxicity, what mercury toxicity is, and I got more to say about sulfur. I'm not done talking about that. And I am fully aware that we started this whole conversation talking about the pancreas and the gallbladder and the digestive system and how we absorb minerals. We'll continue our discussion of all of these fascinating nutritional subjects when we come back. On our next Brightside episode, I want to get to a couple stories, then we'll get your calls. 844-236-6010 is our number. There's a condition, a really nasty skin condition called hidradenitis suppurativa. And to me, this condition, hidradenitis suppurativa, which is a mouthful to say, I consider it to be a poster child for what's wrong with the medical model. Because, number one, it is about just trying to say the name is intimidating, let alone trying to understand what the heck causes it. Hidradenitis suppurativa basically means pus and swelling in your sweat glands. It's Latin for that. HS is what they call it. You're going to start to see commercials about this too, by the way. Commercials for steroid drugs and immune system drugs to minimize this condition. You can't cure the condition with drugs. It's a condition where you get these swollen, painful boils in in your armpits, your groin, your breast area, underneath your breast. And that alone tells you what you got going on if you understand biochemistry. This is why you want to go to a biochemist, not a clinical chemist. A clinical chemist is a doctor. A clinical chemist is somebody who does lab tests and reads the lab scores, does clinical chemistry. A clinical chemist will do a diagnosis on you. He'll look at your lab tests. He'll tell you your condition isn't going away. But a biochemist will say, wait a minute, there's something going on in the biochemistry and the biochemical pathways. Let's figure out what's going on in the biochemistry. Let's replace what's missing or remove what's interfering. That's what biochemistry is about. Clinical chemistry can't do that. Clinical chemist, a doctor, will look at hidradenitis suppurativa, will look at the lesions under the armpits, the swelling, and he won't make any relationship or form any connection between that condition and biochemistry. Instead, he'll give you a steroid injection. He'll put it right into the boil because he doesn't understand what's going on there. All he's doing is reading a test. But a biochemist will say, okay, let's see. You've got lesions in the breast, in the groin, in the hair follicles, in the skin. What do you have? What do all these things have in common? They've got the lymph in common. They run along the lines of the lymph. Now, the inflammation can occur in the sweat glands. That's true. But you'll see a pattern along the lines of the lymphatic system, the toxicity system. It's a sign of major toxicity, hidradenitis suppurativa, if you're dealing with it. Now, when I say major toxicity, it could be something like the wrong food. And in fact, I was just reading last month about the hidradenitis suppurativa and dairy allergy. A study, and I don't have the study in front of me. I wish I could find it. I'll try and find it for tomorrow. But they talked about people who have this horrible condition being put on a dairy-free diet and everybody improving. Now, you need to do more than just go dairy-free if you're dealing with this horrible skin condition, lymphatic and immune condition. It's not a skin condition. It's a lymphatic and immune condition. But nonetheless, you can see how if you read this article, you can see how there's a relationship between what you eat and how it shows up on the skin. Yes, you got to do more, but there's a major connection between what you eat and what shows up on your skin. This is so important because dermatology is a failure for the most part, unless they recognize the nutritional component. Dermatology, people go to dermatologists. I always laugh when people say, "Oh, I'm going to go to the dermatologist. I got a rash." You don't need a dermatologist unless the dermatologist understands biochemistry. And there are, I'm not painting with a broad brush here. There are dermatologists and there's doctors who understand how this works. I'm talking about the science of it, the practice of it. From the journal Dermatology, zinc, effective for hidradenitis suppurativa. 22 patients with hidradenitis suppurativa, mainly grade 1 and grade A, were given 90 milligrams a day of zinc as zinc gluconate. Now, I think that's the wrong form of zinc. 90 milligrams a day is a big dose. But guess what? All the patients improved, and 8 of the patients had a complete resolution of the skin condition, meaning that zinc deficiency was essentially a cause. If you can take a nutrient and then your condition goes away, that tells you that condition was related to a nutrient deficiency. And we know that zinc is a major player in skin health. I've been using zinc to treat acne patients for decades. Zinc deficiency can lead to acne. Again, showing you how a condition that is based on clinical chemistry and based on medical dogma, chronic and lifelong, no cure for. You take a nutrient, you remove a food from the diet, you change the way you eat, you change your work on your digestive system. This is so powerful. Along the same lines, prebiotic prevents eczema in infants. 259 bottle-fed infants who are at risk of developing atopy, that's a fancy way of saying eczema, were randomly assigned to receive either a protein formula with a prebiotic mixture or a protein formula without it. And guess what? Active treatment was associated with a significantly higher recovery rate. The incidence, what does it say here? The incidence of atopic dermatitis was reduced in the prebiotic group and not in the placebo group. Again, showing you the relationship between digestive health and skin health. If I learned one thing in 35 years of working with the skin, it's that you want to have beautiful skin. Number one, first and foremost, work on digestive health. Number two, get on a nutritional supplement program. And then number three, be intelligent with your topical skincare products. It blows me away. To this day, it blows me away how people don't look at their ingredient decks when they use a skincare product. You're going to be shocked if you understand how to read an ingredient deck. Number one, what you're going to see is pretty much all skin products are basically the same stuff. The ingredient decks on skincare products haven't changed since 1880 when Helena Rubinstein first came up with the cream. And on top of that, if you look at the ingredient decks, you're going to see all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't want to go near, let alone rub on your skin every day. And number three, you're going to see, for the most part, a laundry list of chemicals and of chemistry, a witch's brew of chemistry, that is combined to form the typical cream, lotion, cleanser, typical skincare product that we all use. Be an ingredient deck reader. Be an ingredient deck reader with your food, and be an ingredient deck reader with your skin health products, and be an ingredient deck reader with anything that you interact with or ingest. Interact with, touch physically, or ingest, or certainly rub on your skin anyway. All right. Ingredient decks, by the way, are our best friend at The Truth. I love my ingredient decks. All right, 844-236-6010 is our number. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back with your phone calls right after this. Okay, we are back on The Bright Side. 844-236-6010 is our number. Got lines open, and let's say good morning to Barry. What's up, Barry?
Yes, good morning. Yes, I have a few questions. First, if you could narrow down maybe to top 6 anti-aging strategies, what would you say they are?
For the body or for the skin?
For the body.
For the body. It's just the health stuff. NORM, or nutriate, respirate, move, and rest. That's basically what you got to do from a physical perspective. Now, I've been talking about this for a long time. I'll just say it again. The spiritual, the mental, and the emotional are very important. And whenever I see somebody who is not getting the advantage of nutritional supplementation or all the physical kinds of strategies that we talk about, nutriate, respirate, move, and rest, I know there's something percolating underneath in terms of emotion, mental, and spirituality, especially if you plateau. Especially if you have a health challenge and you take your supplements and all of a sudden you start to feel better and you change your diet and you start exercising and all of a sudden you have more energy and you just feel better in your life, but you just plateau. You stop improving. You can guarantee you're guaranteed that there's a mental and emotional and spiritual element behind there. There always is, but that's what you want to be focusing on, and that's so important to understand, especially on this program where we talk a lot about the physical aspects of well-being. However, nonetheless, from a physical perspective, to anti-age, eat as little as food. One of the most important things is to eat as little food as possible. When we stop eating, our body purifies itself. There's a phenomenon called autophagy. Autophagy, auto means self, phage is to eat. Autophagy is self-eating. It's when the body clears out toxins. It eats up toxic materials. It spits out toxic materials out of cells. And the body can only do it when it doesn't have input, when there's nothing coming into it, when there's no incoming. As long as there's incoming, this autophagy does not get to work up, or does not get to kick in. This autophagy process doesn't kick in, and toxicity starts to build up. And then they'll find aluminum deposits or cholesterol deposits, and they'll say, oh, the aluminum causes Alzheimer's disease. Oh, there's cholesterol. That causes blood disease or heart disease. No, it's the toxic stuff that's building up because we're constantly inputting things into the body. So fasting is incredibly important. Calorie restriction is also important. Now, calorie restriction and fasting also sensitize the body to insulin, and insulin is your aging hormone. Insulin, most people know insulin is a blood sugar hormone, and it is. It's involved in helping cells absorb sugar and turns sugar into fat, gets sugar out of the blood. But its main role is to nutriate cells, is to get nutrition into cells so that cells can do their business and work. That's why insulin upregulates building substances like cholesterol. Insulin will upregulate your cholesterol. Bodybuilders, I remember when I was a kid, when I was not even a kid, but a young adult, and I was doing my bodybuilding, weightlifting thing, there'd be a guy who would be injecting insulin in the gym to get bigger, because insulin makes you bigger. Sometimes farmers will inject cattle with insulin to make them bigger. Insulin makes you big. It speeds things up. Insulin is not just a feeding hormone, though. It's an aging hormone, so keeping your insulin down is incredibly important. Intermittent fasting will do that. A calorie restriction will do that, and this is why intermittent fasting, or one reason why intermittent fasting and calorie restriction have always been associated with longer life. Less you eat, the longer you live. It really boils down to, do you want to digest your food, or do you want to live a long life? Do you want your resources to be expended digesting that pizza, or do you want your nutritional resources to be expended building muscle and repairing and growing and fighting cancer? I mean, when you put it that way, it's kind of a no-brainer. So intermittent fasting, calorie restriction, keeping your insulin down. Of course, one of the best ways to keep your insulin down is to keep your sugar down. We live in a society, in a world where it's almost intentional. The kind of foods, the idea that we're eating processed foods and nutrient deficient foods and foods that tax our insulin system. The case could be made that it's planned obsolescence. You know, when they make light bulbs, they don't need to make light bulbs that only last a month. They don't need to make cars and other computers that only last a couple of years. That's called planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is when the obsolescence product is meant to go obsolete in a couple of years or a couple of months or in a planned way. Well, there may be a planned obsolescence of human beings. You know, maybe it seems it's pretty obvious that we're doing it. We're subsisting on foods that are going to kill us. So anyway, keeping your food intake down, keeping your blood sugar stable, eating as little calories as possible, getting on a nutritional supplement program. You're not going to be able to do it with just get everything you need just with foods. And then the emotional and mental aspects, rage, anger. That's why if you listen to the radio, if you listen to the internet and radio, and you get angry after you listen to something about the government or about the New World Order or about something that's going on in politics or something that's going on in the culture, if you get upset and your cortisol goes up, guess what's happening? You're killing yourself. There's no point to that. There's no point to listening to that stuff. But if you listen to empowering shows like The Bright Side, where you feel better and you feel inspired and you feel stronger, you add years to your life. So don't underestimate the very important relationship between emotions, how we feel, and how our body shows up, for better or worse. And the same is true with the mental nature. Getting control of the mental nature is incredibly important, at least having a little bit of control over it. Most of us are completely run by our mental nature because we are the descendants of ancestors who survived by being scared. Our ancestors survived long enough to have us because they were sensitive to fear. We're the descendants of, we evolved from fear. So our mind naturally goes to fear. It automatically goes to survival. And that may help us on the savannah in Africa, but it's not really helpful today. In fact, it's counterproductive, and getting control of the survival fear aspect of how we think is really important. And guess what? Meditation is unbelievably valuable. It's so valuable that they're studying it in medical schools. They call it mindfulness now. Mindfulness is like a synonym for meditation. Mindfulness is when you pay attention to details. When you eat a banana, instead of wolfing it down, you spend 5 minutes chewing on a piece of banana. That's a mindfulness meditation. You can do it with every single thing you do with your life. You can do a mindfulness meditation. You can live meditation. Meditation practice is what most people think about when they think about meditation, but the idea of meditation practice is to employ it in real life. You practice it, but then you employ it in real life. You control your mind. You focus on one thing. The mind loves to focus on one thing. It immediately goes into an alpha state. It immediately activates the vagal neurology. And by the way, this whole idea of the vagus nerve is your parasympathetic nerve, your main parasympathetic, your main rest nerve. And this idea of the vagus nerve being involved in healing and health and wellness and disease as well, when it's not activated, is now gaining more and more medical credibility as something called polyvagal theory. I've been talking about it for decades. I didn't call it polyvagal theory. I didn't even mention the vagus nerve. I just talked about how important it is to be parasympathetic, to be in the rest and digest mode as much as possible. Slow, deep breathing, meditation, muscle relaxation, calming the body down any way you know how. Activating the vagus nerve slows down the heart rate, decreases cortisol, is one of the best anti-inflammatories you could use, supports the immune system, improves digestion. And we go to the doctor when we have health problems. When we have sympathetic health problems, instead of learning to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation nervous system, we go to the doctor. When we have high blood pressure, we go to the doctor. When we have liver disease, we go to the doctor. How did this happen? So anyway, that's a long-winded answer, Barry. I hope that helps. Nutriate, respirate, move, and rest. I didn't even talk about movement. Exercise a little bit. Move your body a little bit. The body is designed to move. And ironically, the more physical stress you're under, the more important it is to move. If you have scar tissue or haven't taken care of your body, you may have to do something like rolfing, where they break up scar tissue, some kind of body work before you start a serious movement or exercise program. And by the way, a massage, and I'm talking about serious massage, not just being touched, although that's good too, but a real serious massage, body work is super duper helpful for longevity, for health and wellness, for peace of mind, pretty much for everything that you want from a physical perspective, everything you want in your body you can get from a good massage. And if we really cared about health insurance in this country, we'd have national massage insurance where every American gets one massage, 2 massages a month, 1 massage a week I would do. Anyway, Barry, I hope that helps you, buddy. Thanks for your call. Appreciate it. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Don't forget to check out brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com for the longevity products, and truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com for our Truth Skin Health products. Thanks for listening to The Bright Side. Have yourselves a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.